as the very first, gentle rays of morning sunlight softly filter through the narrow gaps of the window panes. This tiny, humble room seems to awaken in a crystal clear, profoundly tranquil atmosphere. The rustic, unpretentious space, intentionally kept with very few pieces of furniture and belongings, seems to naturally create just enough empty room for one to genuinely hear even the steady, rhythmic sound of their own breathing. All the chaotic noise, the endless rushing, and the overwhelming hustle and bustle of the crowded city streets have been firmly left behind, completely shut out behind that closed door. Now all that remains is a lingering sense of gentle, soothing peace that softly caresses every single grain of the wooden surfaces around us. Starting a brand new day doesn't have to begin with the jarring, frantic ringing of a hurried alarm clock that jolts you out of bed. Instead, it can simply start with a slow, gentle stretch of the body to welcome the fresh, cool morning breeze flowing inside. His hands move with deliberate care and mindfulness as he meticulously smooths out every single wrinkle on the surface of the thin, soft blanket, making sure it lies perfectly flat before he gently and neatly folds it away into a tidy corner of the sleeping mat. The quiet, rustling sound of the fabric rubbing together blends seamlessly into the incredibly fresh and pure morning air, instantly bringing about a remarkably strange yet profoundly comforting sense of orderliness, neatness, and profound inner peace. Taking the time to tidy up the very space where you rest your head is honestly not a boring or tedious chore at all. In fact, it feels very much like you are taking a mindful moment to carefully fold and neatly organize all your cluttered, chaotic thoughts and lingering worries after a long, exhausting night. Holding a soft, slightly damp cloth in his hand, he slowly and methodically wipes across the worn surface of the old wooden table. The gentle, rhythmic sound of the cloth gliding over the wood echoes softly in the quiet room, gradually wiping away the thin, hazy layer of dust that had settled overnight, and completely restoring the raw, pristine, and naturally polished beauty of the wood grain. The fewer items we clutter our living spaces with, the more precious time and mental energy we actually have to truly cherish and care for every single small object we own. Minimalism is not about strictly denying ourselves material possessions or living in deprivation. Rather, it is a beautiful way for us to deeply appreciate. Once the entire room is spotless and impeccably neat, he intentionally carves out a precious, deeply quiet moment for himself right by the windowsill. The brilliant, harmonious morning sunlight generously floods in, fully embracing the small space, while the air is completely filled with the pure, refreshing scent of a brand new day. Sitting there in absolute stillness, it genuinely seems as though all those cramped, heavy anxieties simply melt away into the breeze, gracefully making room for the absolute freedom of a soul that has finally learned what it means to have enough. Stepping away from the sun-drenched windowsill, he turns his quiet attention back to a few personal belongings that are still lying somewhat scattered and unorganized around the room. Every single small item is carefully picked up with intentionality, briefly but thoughtfully examined, and then gently placed back into its proper, designated spot. The soft, faint clinking sounds of the objects lightly touching one another echo so quietly in the room, seamlessly intertwining with the slow, steady rhythm of his breathing to create a soothing, instrumental melody of everyday life. The deliberate act of placing things exactly where they belong requires a level of mindfulness that naturally slows down a racing mind. Have you ever stopped to think that the simple, repetitive process of reorganizing your physical room is actually the exact same process we use to patiently untangle the messy, tightly knotted balls of yarn spinning wildly inside our own heads, slowly bringing us back to a state of calm? Items that are no longer truly necessary for his daily life are gently and respectfully packed away, intentionally leaving behind wide, open, and incredibly spacious areas within the room. Sometimes, as human beings, we get so caught up in the endless pursuit of relentlessly accumulating as many material possessions as possible, only to completely forget that it is precisely these empty, uncluttered spaces that allow natural sunlight and fresh breezes to freely flow into our homes. His tidying motions continue to repeat themselves in a remarkably steady, rhythmic pattern, making it look exactly as if he is meticulously and patiently pulling out every single stubborn weed from the overgrown garden of his own soul. It is a profoundly relieving and liberating feeling to finally let go of the excess weight we carry, isn't it? When we clear our physical environment of unnecessary clutter, we are simultaneously clearing our mental pathways, creating a peaceful sanctuary where true relaxation and creativity can flourish without any distraction. When everything finally falls into a state of perfect, harmonious order, the entire living space feels as though it has just successfully shed a suffocating, heavy layer of chaotic clutter. The room, which now holds only the items that are genuinely essential and meaningful, naturally radiates a remarkably pure, clean, and profoundly peaceful fragrance. Looking back at this meticulously tidy and pristine little corner, whatever slight physical fatigue that might have lingered from the cleaning process seems to effortlessly vanish right alongside the very last specks of dust that were swept away. The environment now reflects a calm state of mind, proving that less truly can be so much more. In your personal opinion, do you believe that choosing to maintain a minimalist living space with significantly fewer possessions can genuinely provide us with a much more liberated, free, and expansively open state of mind in our everyday lives? Now that the room is perfectly neat and orderly, it is also the moment when the very pace of life seems to gracefully stretch out, drifting by in a slow, delightfully leisurely manner. There are no deafening noises from rushing traffic or urgent, stressful notifications demanding immediate attention. Instead, there are only gentle, deliberate gestures that blend flawlessly with the soothing, trickling sound of water or the crisp, melodious chirping of birds just outside the porch. Perhaps it is only when we finally manage to let go of all those unnecessary attachments and heavy burdens that we, as humans, truly begin to learn how to deeply listen to and wholeheartedly enjoy every single present moment to its absolute fullest. By stripping away the non-essentials, we open ourselves up to the raw beauty of simple existence. Do you think that sometimes making a conscious decision to purposefully slow down our lives is actually the most effective way for us to eventually go much further? Settling comfortably back into a soft, cozy little corner, he allows his entire physical body to completely relax and unwind, letting his wandering mind freely anchor itself to the most peaceful and tranquil thoughts available. This incredibly rustic, unadorned space acts almost like a gentle, comforting embrace, effectively soothing and washing away all the intense stress and lingering fatigue that has been silently accumulating over such a long period of time. Beautiful, natural sunlight filters softly through the wooden window frame, directly illuminating this one exceptionally peaceful corner and brightly highlighting the profound expression of serene contentment on his face. This beautiful scene serves as a wonderful reminder that true joy does not require extravagance or complex arrangements to be deeply felt. Happiness is sometimes surprisingly simple. It is really just the absolute freedom to fully master and control your own precious time. Wouldn't you all agree? Time itself seems to completely stand still within the comforting walls of this tiny, intimate space. Everything just gently and effortlessly unfolds according to its own inherent, natural rhythm. Absolutely nothing feels forced, rushed, or overly loud in any way. It is precisely this profound, unbroken silence that surprisingly harbors an immensely powerful healing energy, slowly and quietly weaving its way into every single hidden crevice and corner of the human soul. The stillness allows for a deep sense of restoration that no bustling city street could ever possibly offer to a weary traveler. As we slowly bring these precious, mindful moments of slow living to a close, it is hard not to pause and genuinely wonder just how many exhausted people out there are desperately yearning to find a deeply peaceful sanctuary exactly like this one, especially while caught right in the middle of the chaotic, dizzying whirlwind of a world that constantly demands more. Stepping far away from the chaotic noise and rushed frenzy of daily life, he dedicates the complete and utter tranquility of this fresh morning to a remarkably small yet deeply cherished and respected personal ritual. The gentle, soothing sound of water softly bubbling and singing inside the kettle, combined with the fragile, wispy trails of steam gracefully curling upward, carries the earthy, deeply aromatic scent of tea leaves that instantly awakens every single sense. As he slowly and methodically pours out the steaming, warm streams of water, his own breathing naturally aligns with the motion, becoming more steady, rhythmic, and peaceful than ever before. It is a meditative practice in its own right, grounding him completely in the present second without any distraction. Have you ever truly realized that these wonderfully simple, unpretentious moments spent right beside a steaming, shimmering cup of tea are actually the exact times when our minds are cleansed the most? Holding the wonderfully warm and comforting cup of tea securely in his hands, he lets his soul wander freely as he quietly gazes out at the brilliant, harmonious patches of sunlight that are softly stretching across the deserted front porch. The entire atmosphere surrounding him feels as though it has been completely suspended in time, leaving absolutely nothing behind except for the gentle, soothing sound of the breeze whispering through the rustling green leaves. With every single warm, fragrant sip of tea that slowly travels down, it feels as though another layer of daily sorrow, stress, and heavy emotional burden is effortlessly lifted and removed, leaving behind only the pure, pristine tranquility of a soul that is undergoing a complete and total process of profound healing. What are your personal thoughts on intentionally rewarding yourself with a beautifully peaceful, quiet little corner exactly like this one to retreat to each and every single day of your busy life? True freedom is sometimes not at all about possessing the limitless ability to travel anywhere and everywhere in the physical world. Rather, it is the profound capacity to sit absolutely still in a tiny, quiet corner and vividly feel the entire universe moving and shifting right inside your very own being. The deeply comforting warmth that slowly radiates outward from the palms of his hands seamlessly blends and harmonizes with the immense, breathtaking silence of the earth and sky, ultimately creating an incredibly priceless, irreplaceable moment that simply cannot be bought with any amount of wealth or material possessions. Right in the middle of a modern world that constantly seems like it is relentlessly racing and competing out there, perhaps genuinely learning how to patiently and mindfully enjoy a simple cup of tea in total silence is actually the most exquisitely beautiful and deeply rewarding art of living we could ever hope to master in our lifetimes. After finishing his deeply relaxing tea, he immediately begins to immerse himself into a series of unnamed, simple tidying tasks around the house. His hands leisurely and gracefully glide over the various rustic, unpolished objects, meticulously and patiently wiping away every single tiny, faint layer of dust that has settled on their surfaces. There is absolutely no sense of rushed urgency, stress, or physical exhaustion involved. Instead, every single movement he makes is incredibly smooth and beautifully rhythmic, closely resembling a quiet, mesmerizing dance of pure tranquility. The very faint, gentle clinking sounds that occur whenever the wooden objects lightly touch one another ring out so clearly and brightly, mingling perfectly with the deeply familiar, comforting scent of aged wood that thoroughly fills the surrounding air. People often say that taking good care of the living space where you reside is exactly like patiently peeling away the complicated emotional entanglements buried deep inside your own soul. Continuing with the soothing task of caring for his personal space, he redirects his attention toward the tiny, vibrant green patches of nature scattered around the house. By slowly and purposefully pouring out each refreshing scoop of cool water, he looks as if he is actively sowing an extra layer of lush vitality into the heart of this brand new day. The delicate, rhythmic sound of water droplets softly pattering against the broad green leaves, sparkling brightly like flawless pearls under the golden rays of the early morning sun, effortlessly creates a remarkably cooling and endlessly relaxing scene. The distinctly earthy aroma of the newly dampened soil rises into the air, carrying the raw, pristine breath of wild nature directly into the room. Perhaps, simple plants always possess an innate ability to comfort our weary minds, using only the most fundamentally basic elements of existence. Just how long has it actually been since you last took the time to personally water a fragile plant sprout with your own hands? The little corner, after being meticulously cared for, now brightly illuminates under the generous, harmonious sunlight pouring in. Everything rests peacefully in its exact, rightful place, effortlessly exuding a profound beauty of pure simplicity, without feeling forced or artificial in any way. You really do not need any luxurious, extravagant, or expensive pieces of furniture to create a welcoming environment. Instead, it is precisely the meticulous neatness and the deep, genuine love intentionally poured into every single tiny corner that truly cultivates the comforting warmth of a real home. Standing right in the middle of this incredibly clear, pristine space, taking a very deep breath to fully absorb the refreshing, invigorating scent of the brand new morning sun, all the heavy, invisible barriers of the loud, chaotic world outside seem to be completely left behind. My friends, when we finally learn how to deeply appreciate and genuinely love the very place we truly belong to, Stepping away from the wonderfully cozy little corner inside, he leisurely and slowly walks out onto the open front porch, spreading his arms wide to fully embrace the incredibly pure, clean, and refreshing atmosphere of the natural world. The gentle, cool morning breeze softly and affectionately caresses through his hair, gracefully carrying along the soothing, rustling sounds of the leaves that flawlessly harmonize with the lively, cheerful chirping chorus of tiny birds, playfully hopping from one branch to another. Standing right in the middle of this incredibly expansive open space heavily shaded by vibrant, lush green trees, it genuinely feels as though every single invisible boundary or distance between human beings and Mother Nature has been completely erased. You see, sometimes the idea of running away or escaping does not necessarily mean packing a heavy backpack and traveling to some distant, faraway land. Instead, it can simply mean stepping right out of your own front door and completely immersing your soul into a profoundly quiet. The surrounding landscape seems to be proudly showing off its most raw, pristine, and beautifully untouched natural elegance. The vibrant, lush green leaves subtly quiver and playfully dance under the brilliantly sparkling patches of sunlight, looking exactly like tiny, glowing specks of golden dust gently falling directly from the clear, vast sky above. Taking a remarkably deep, long breath to completely fill your lungs with the incredibly cool, refreshing, and revitalizing life force of the early morning dew, you can tangibly feel as if every single living cell in your physical body is slowly expanding, eagerly absorbing the endless, boundless healing energy generously provided by Mother Nature herself. It is a profoundly restorative experience that instantly washes away all the lingering tiredness and heavy emotional burdens from the previous day. Surely, every single one of us has experienced a distinct, fleeting moment where we desperately long to be fully immersed in such a vibrantly green. Standing right there, perfectly positioned in the harmonious intersection of the earth and the open sky, he actively chooses to remain completely quiet, silently and peacefully observing all living things as they naturally and effortlessly flow by. There are absolutely no frantic, urgent sounds of blaring car horns trying to aggressively rush him forward, nor are there any heavy, invisible pressures of tight, stressful deadlines relentlessly weighing down on his tired shoulders. Instead, there is only a profound, incredibly deep, and restorative silence that gently comforts and thoroughly soothes the deepest parts of his weary soul. This specific type of tranquility feels exactly like a thick, remarkably soft and cozy blanket, warmly wrapping around all physical exhaustion while simultaneously providing a profound, unshakable sense of absolute security and emotional safety. Just let the precious time slip away incredibly slowly. After thoroughly enjoying those precious, restorative minutes completely immersing himself in the raw beauty of nature, he slowly makes his way back into the small, comforting kitchen to begin carefully preparing a wonderfully simple, unpretentious meal. There are absolutely no overly fancy, extravagant ingredients required here, nor are there any highly complex, stressful cooking techniques involved. Instead, there are only a few modest bunches of vibrantly fresh, green vegetables that were just freshly picked from the garden outside, still bearing a few sparkling, crystal-clear drops of morning dew. Every single gentle, unhurried slice of the knife moves in a remarkably slow, steady, and beautifully rhythmic motion across the solid wooden cutting board, producing a wonderfully crisp, satisfying, and rhythmic chopping sound. That deeply familiar, incredibly comforting noise just keeps echoing smoothly and consistently, gently reminding us of the profound, understated beauty found in the most ordinary, mundane things. The bright, flickering flames seem to softly and cheerfully dance inside the tiny, rustic kitchen, instantly releasing a distinctly earthy, slightly pungent aroma of dry, burning firewood that seamlessly blends with the deeply intense, comforting warmth spreading across the room. He takes his time, slowly and meticulously cooking the simple food, carefully and deliberately stirring the small, gently simmering pot of broth, completely allowing the thick, rolling steam to rise upward and carry the incredibly fragrant, mouth-watering scent of the authentic countryside all around the cozy space. There is absolutely no rushed haste, no frantic hurry. Every single mindful movement is heavily imbued with a profound sense of delicate care and immense heartfelt gratitude for these humble, everyday gifts provided by the natural world. Cooking following a truly minimalist lifestyle approach is not merely about satisfying physical hunger, but it is also a beautiful, intentional method to deeply nourish a highly appreciative soul. And finally, the mindful preparation of the meal is completely finished. There is absolutely no lavish, extravagant feast filled with an overwhelming variety of expensive, complicated dishes. Instead, there are only a few remarkably simple, incredibly modest portions of food, neatly arranged on the familiar, well-worn wooden table. The intensely hot, comforting steam continues to billow upward in thick, swirling clouds, carrying along with it the deeply satisfying, nostalgic flavor of absolute peace and wholesome, unpretentious living. Right in the middle of this profoundly quiet, undisturbed environment, he slowly sits down, quietly and respectfully pressing his hands together in a silent gesture of gratitude, before finally enjoying the well-deserved fruits of his own patient labor. True happiness sometimes does not rely at all on what expensive ingredients we are consuming, but rather on the peaceful, deeply relaxed, and utterly unbothered state of mind we maintain while we are eating. Holding the steaming, incredibly hot bowl of freshly cooked rice securely in his hands, he begins to very slowly and mindfully savor every single bite of this wonderfully simple, yet profoundly heartwarming countryside-inspired meal. There is absolutely no loud, distracting noise blaring from a television set in the background, nor is there a brightly glowing, blue light-emitting smartphone screen constantly demanding his attention. Instead, the entire space is now filled only with the faint, gentle, and rhythmic clinking sounds of wooden chopsticks lightly tapping against the ceramic bowl. Every single unhurried, deliberate chewing motion feels exactly like he is patiently and appreciatively savoring the profound tranquility of the present moment, deeply valuing the pure, natural, and wholesome sweetness of the earth, flawlessly crystallized inside each perfectly fragrant, sticky grain of rice. It is truly remarkable how, when we intentionally strip away all those overly complex, artificial exterior seasonings, while slowly and deliberately eating his simple, unpretentious meal, he also lets his soft, wandering gaze drift aimlessly out toward the open front porch, directly observing the brilliantly harmonious, golden patches of sunlight playfully dancing and shimmering on the wide, vibrant green banana leaves. A delightfully soft, incredibly gentle breeze casually drifts through the quiet area, carrying the remarkably fresh, crisp, and earthy aroma of young, tender grass just after the early morning dew has settled, effectively comforting and thoroughly soothing every single one of his physical senses. Eating is no longer merely a basic biological function required to mechanically nourish the physical body. Rather, within this profoundly still and meditative moment, it completely transforms into a highly spiritual, mindful ritual designed to help him deeply and authentically connect with his own inner self and the vast, living universe surrounding him. The peaceful meal eventually concludes in the exact same remarkably gentle, unassuming, and completely quiet manner in which it originally began. There are absolutely no messy, scattered leftovers remaining on the table, nor is there any carelessly discarded or wasted food. Absolutely everything has been deeply appreciated, thoroughly savored, and incredibly respected right down to the very last, flavorful bite, perfectly and clearly reflecting the profound, underlying philosophy of knowing when enough is enough, that is so central to a truly authentic, minimalist way of living. As he slowly and carefully clears away the rustic, unadorned dishes and wooden utensils, the surrounding physical space instantly returns to its original, inherent state of pristine silence and absolute purity, seamlessly paving the clear way for the next series of wonderfully relaxing, leisurely moments in this long, incredibly tranquil day. After his stomach has been thoroughly filled and deeply satisfied by those incredibly warm, comforting, and nostalgic flavors of the countryside, he willingly allows himself to slowly drift into a profoundly peaceful and wonderfully quiet moment of absolute stillness right in the very middle of the day. The entire surrounding space genuinely feels as if it has completely paused and suspended itself in time, leaving absolutely nothing behind except for the remarkably faint, incredibly gentle ticking sound of the passing hours and minutes as they slowly, leisurely slip by. Leaning comfortably back on his deeply familiar, well-worn wooden chair, he peacefully closes his eyes and completely relaxes his entire physical body, willingly letting the remarkably soothing, gentle breezes softly caress his skin and effortlessly blow away any lingering traces of mild fatigue that might have just attached themselves to his tired shoulders. The beautifully vibrant and deeply serene surrounding landscape also seems to be continuously whispering a remarkably gentle, incredibly soothing, and wonderfully melodic lullaby to anyone willing to patiently listen. A few scattered, brilliantly golden rays of the midday sun gracefully pierce directly through the thick, lush green canopy of leaves, playfully and rhythmically dancing on the solid dirt ground below, effortlessly sketching out a series of intricately woven, softly contrasting patterns of pure light and dark shadows that look exceptionally delicate and beautiful. The surrounding atmosphere is incredibly clear and remarkably pristine, carrying the incredibly faint, delicate, yet profoundly comforting, earthy scent of damp soil, mixed perfectly with dry, fallen leaves, slowly warming up under the gentle heat of the midday sun. When the human mind is no longer helplessly trapped or hopelessly entangled inside the endless, dizzying cycles of rushed, chaotic daily life, the incredibly steady, smooth, and remarkably peaceful rhythm of his deep breathing naturally harmonizes and perfectly synchronizes with the soothing, gentle rustling sounds of the surrounding trees and lush green grass, effectively lulling him into a remarkably brief but exceptionally high-quality and profoundly restorative midday nap. There is absolutely no underlying need for any grand, spectacular, or highly complex dreams to occur right now. Simply having a completely dreamless, undisturbed slumber, without ever being abruptly startled or rudely awakened by the harsh, demanding ringtone of a modern smartphone, is more than enough to fully recharge and abundantly replenish the depleted energy reserves of a tired soul. The immense, profound tranquility and utter stillness of this deeply peaceful summer afternoon genuinely feels as though it has firmly and permanently locked all lingering anxieties and stressful, chaotic worries far outside the closed front door. Gently waking up from that incredibly peaceful, deeply restorative midday slumber, there is absolutely no jarring, frantic sound of an urgent alarm clock aggressively rushing him to get up. Instead, there is only the highly melodious, crystal-clear chirping of small birds outside on the sunlit porch, warmly inviting him to begin the afternoon. He very slowly stretches his relaxed limbs, releasing any remaining tension, and then leisurely selects a wonderfully cozy, quiet little corner, flooded with brilliant natural light, to continue carefully turning the pages of his unfinished book. The slightly dry, remarkably crisp, and faintly rustling sound of the paper turning echoes in the quiet room, yet it somehow brings about a deeply familiar, nostalgic, and incredibly pleasant sensation. Within this profoundly silent and wonderfully tranquil environment, completely immersing oneself into every single printed word is exactly like embarking on a long, fascinating journey deep into the vast, complex world of the inner soul. Every single fingertip, gently, delicately, and rhythmically glides across the neatly printed rows of text, while his highly focused, deeply attentive eyes meticulously absorb every single profound message and hidden meaning carefully embedded onto the beautifully aged, slightly yellowed pages of the old, beloved book. The remarkably soft, incredibly gentle, and soothing natural light gracefully filters through the wooden window frame, completely and affectionately enveloping the quiet, solitary silhouette of the dedicated reader, effortlessly creating a wonderfully picturesque, undeniably peaceful, and uniquely calming visual masterpiece that feels almost surreal. Books genuinely do not merely provide us with vast amounts of factual knowledge and useful information. Rather, during these incredibly precious, fleeting moments of intentional slow living, a good book acts exactly like a deeply understanding, loyal soulmate. Gently closing the thick, engaging book and setting it carefully aside, he thoughtfully casts his relaxed, distant gaze far out into the open horizon, completely allowing his deep, endless trains of complex thoughts to freely and aimlessly drift, along with the remarkably slow, sluggish, and incredibly fluffy white clouds floating lazily outside the large window frame. His entire mind feels as if it has been thoroughly washed clean and beautifully purified, suddenly becoming incredibly weightless, wonderfully empty, and vastly clearer than it has ever been in a very long time. The profound, overarching silence present in this exact moment does not carry any heavy, sad feelings of isolation or bitter loneliness. Instead, it is incredibly brimming and overflowing with a deep, profound sense of mutual empathy and absolute, unrestricted personal freedom. Sometimes, the absolute most valuable, irreplaceable asset that we could ever possibly accumulate in our entire lives Finally leaving the captivating pages of the book behind, he once again purposefully finds his quiet way back to the remarkably cozy, sunlit little corner of the vibrant front garden, where countless tiny, fragile living creatures are actively stretching their delicate green bodies every single day to eagerly welcome the warm, nourishing sunlight. His strong, capable hands, now slightly smudged and dirtied with a little bit of dark, damp, and earthy soil, incredibly gently and affectionately cradle every single exceptionally tender, bright green young leaf, while meticulously and patiently plucking away any dead, withered, or barren branches that are no longer serving a purpose. The highly distinct, wonderfully crisp rustling sound of dry, brittle leaves flawlessly mingling and harmonizing with the soft, rhythmic, and incredibly gentle pitter-patter of trickling water sounds exactly like a remarkably soothing, tranquil piece of instrumental music. Taking good care of plants is a wonderful mindfulness practice teaching you love. The beautifully pale, incredibly soft, and distinctly golden late afternoon sunlight gracefully and diagonally pierces directly through every single tiny narrow gap between the lush green leaves, spectacularly dyeing the entire little garden in a remarkably warm, deeply nostalgic, and incredibly poetic color palette that genuinely touches the very bottom of the human heart. The wonderfully cool, refreshing, and crystal clear droplets of pure water that are still delicately clinging to the tightly closed, shy little flower buds sparkle and brightly shimmer exactly like exquisitely rare, flawless precious gemstones scattered carelessly across a vibrant, intensely green, and deeply refreshing background. Standing completely still right in the very middle of this expansive space, deeply inhaling the faintly earthy, pungent scent of the rich soil perfectly combined with the remarkably light, silently and deeply admiring the incredibly beautiful, intensely vibrant little garden, absolutely overflowing with raw, natural vitality, right after it has been so meticulously, lovingly, and carefully tended to. A remarkably gentle, highly satisfied smile softly blooms on his calm lips, completely filled to the absolute brim with a profound, unshakable sense of true fulfillment and deep inner peace. Genuine, long-lasting personal satisfaction sometimes does not come at all from achieving massively grand, highly celebrated, or widely recognized public accomplishments. Rather, it can simply and beautifully emerge from the exceedingly quiet, humbling moment when we finally realize just how incredibly small we truly are, and how wonderfully harmonious we can be with the beautifully smooth, steady, and tranquil beating rhythm of the natural world. The very last, lingering rays of sunlight at the very end of the day are no longer intensely fierce, blinding, or aggressively hot. Instead, they have gradually and beautifully transitioned into a remarkably sweet, incredibly soothing, and wonderfully mellow shade of deep, honey-like golden yellow, very slowly and deliberately spreading a remarkably thin, fragile, and delicate coat of warm, comforting light directly over the quiet wooden windowsill. He purposefully chooses to linger and quietly sit still in a cozy, intimate little corner, completely allowing the wonderfully mild, deeply comforting residual warmth to incredibly gently and affectionately caress his relaxed, slightly tired shoulders. Within this profoundly quiet, deeply tranquil, and incredibly serene environment, where absolutely nothing can be heard except for the beautifully soft, rhythmic, and soothing rustling sounds of the passing evening breeze, the deeply comforting shadows begin to gracefully stretch far and wide across the beautifully polished wooden floor, flawlessly intertwining with the very last, lingering streaks of bright golden daylight to effortlessly create an incredibly stunning, heavily atmospheric inkwash painting, completely imbued with profound, undeniable peace. The naturally steady, relentless rhythm of time, passing through this specific, intimate space, genuinely seems to slow down by an entire, noticeable beat, willingly stepping aside to fully make room for the immense, all-encompassing tranquility that now quietly blankets every single living thing in sight. The gently circulating air carries just the faintest, incredibly refreshing hint of the cool, crisp chill emanating from the slowly descending evening mist, effectively and remarkably soothing the harsh, dry heat accumulated from a very long, exhausting day. Just before the natural, comforting daylight completely fades away into total darkness, he incredibly gently and methodically begins to reorganize and neatly tidy up the various small, rustic objects immediately surrounding him. This highly deliberate, mindful action serves as a profoundly respectful, quiet way to bid a fond farewell to the passing old day, fully preparing his weary mind and body to gracefully enter the deeply peaceful, restorative embrace of the coming night. The wonderfully faint, delicate clinking sounds produced while carefully putting things away ring out incredibly clearly and brightly in the still room. Rather than abruptly shattering the profoundly quiet, tranquil atmosphere, these rhythmic noises actually serve to beautifully highlight and strongly emphasize the elegant, sophisticated purity inherent in a truly authentic minimalist lifestyle. Immersed deeply within the profoundly quiet, beautifully desolate space of the slowly fading late afternoon, he once again discovers genuine, heartfelt joy in executing remarkably meticulous, highly detailed manual crafting tasks. His heavily calloused, weather-beaten yet incredibly skilled and remarkably dexterous hands very slowly, patiently, and deliberately repair, meticulously polish, and carefully repair a few old, severely worn out, and heavily weathered household items, instead of simply and wastefully throwing them into the trash. The highly rhythmic, incredibly steady rustling and soft clinking noises echo beautifully, flawlessly blending with the faint, natural scent of honest physical exertion, and the deeply rustic, undeniably comforting aroma of raw wood naturally radiating throughout the open air. The beautiful, fading natural sunlight slowly and inevitably surrenders its golden territory, gracefully giving way to the incredibly quiet, profoundly still, and heavily stretching streaks of deep evening shadows. However, his incredibly intense, laser-like level of pure mental concentration genuinely seems absolutely unwavering and completely unaffected by the changing environment. His highly observant, deeply attentive eyes meticulously follow every single carved line and incredibly delicate, intricate fold, completely channeling all of his conscious mental energy directly into the present moment without allowing any stray, chaotic, or stressful thoughts to rudely interrupt his flow. When his remarkably meticulous, highly focused manual crafting work finally comes to a gentle, temporary close, he takes a wonderfully long, deeply satisfying stretch, effectively releasing that tiny, stubborn knot of physical fatigue that had slowly accumulated along his stiff spine. Quietly admiring the incredibly small, delightfully humble wooden item that has just been completely revived and beautifully resurrected through the sheer dedication of his very own hands, a remarkably soft, incredibly gentle, and highly contented smile briefly flickers across his calm lips. It is certainly not some massive, historically significant, or widely celebrated artistic masterpiece, yet it heavily contains the absolute entirety of a profoundly peaceful afternoon and the absolute fullness of his unwavering, pure mindfulness. In a highly modernized, fast-paced world where nearly everything can be easily and instantly purchased with money, the simple, intentional act of manually creating something with your whole heart, stepping completely away from his highly familiar, sawdust-covered woodworking corner, he deliberately shifts his quiet, focused attention directly toward his incredibly small, noticeably modest personal wardrobe. The continuous, highly intentional journey of minimalism sometimes does not consist at all of aggressively or ruthlessly throwing everything you own away. Rather, it is a deeply profound, incredibly honest internal dialogue with your own true self to accurately recognize which specific items are genuinely necessary for your daily survival and happiness. Every single piece of clothing is slowly pulled out, carefully and respectfully held in his gentle hands, and then meticulously and beautifully folded back together. The wonderfully soft, incredibly soothing rustling sounds of fabric effortlessly echo throughout the profoundly quiet, Those heavily worn, noticeably faded, and increasingly ragged old shirts that are rarely ever worn anymore are now incredibly carefully, thoughtfully, and respectfully bundled up and set firmly aside, intentionally leaving behind a remarkably vast, generously open, and beautifully empty space, exclusively reserved for the highly simple, essential things to which he is genuinely and deeply attached. The previously cramped, incredibly tight internal space completely inside the small wardrobe is gradually and beautifully transforming, becoming surprisingly neat, highly orderly, and strangely spacious. When our direct line of sight is no longer heavily obstructed or completely blocked by chaotic, messy piles of unnecessary clutter, we will naturally and effortlessly feel our own hearts physically expanding, becoming significantly more tolerant, widely forgiving, and infinitely more relaxed. Firmly closing the heavy, solid wooden door of the newly organized wardrobe, a remarkably distinct, incredibly dry, and satisfyingly crisp click boldly rings out, definitively shutting away all the previous chaotic messiness and instantly opening up an incredibly profound, genuinely indescribable, and deeply overwhelming sense of pure personal satisfaction. The wonderfully soft, remarkably gentle, and slightly muted evening light beautifully filters into the room, smoothly gliding directly across the incredibly flat, impeccably pristine, and dust-free surfaces, flawlessly highlighting and strongly elevating the raw, undeniable beauty found purely in this quiet, peaceful emptiness. The physical living space right now is genuinely no longer merely a basic, functional shelter meant exclusively for basic physical survival. Rather, it has completely and authentically transformed into an incredibly solid, heavily fortified, and deeply reliable sanctuary for the weary soul. Right after the entire, previously chaotic room has been completely, meticulously, and flawlessly arranged into a state of absolute, pristine neatness, he leisurely and slowly steps outside, fully ready to deeply enjoy the incredibly crisp, remarkably clear, and beautifully pure atmosphere of the slowly descending late afternoon, intentionally choosing not to bring along any distracting, noisy electronic devices whatsoever. There is absolutely nothing left but the remarkably soft, incredibly gentle sound of his own slow footsteps, quietly pressing down onto the thick, exceptionally soft layer of lush green grass, perfectly harmonizing with the steady, calm rhythm of his breathing. A wonderfully light, playful breeze gently dances by, carrying the highly distinct, slightly pungent, and deeply earthy aroma of wild weeds, mixed flawlessly with the rich, heavy moisture of the damp soil, effectively and permanently dispelling any remaining. The breathtaking, deeply serene, and incredibly picturesque surrounding landscape just continues to very slowly, gently, and wonderfully sluggishly drift by in a remarkably leisurely, completely unhurried manner. The massive, heavily overgrown, and incredibly lush tree canopies generously cast down their wonderfully refreshing, deeply cooling shadows, gently swaying back and forth in perfect synchronization with the rhythmic, steady flow of the passing wind, looking exactly as if they are softly and intimately whispering a highly romantic, entirely wordless love song. His deeply tired, previously strained eyes are now completely and utterly relaxed as they quietly gaze out at the incredibly vast, seemingly endless stretch of highly vibrant, cooling green colors laid out directly before him, rather than being forcefully required to maintain high, intense concentration on harsh, glaringly bright, and aggressively artificial electronic screens. His unhurried footsteps come to a gentle stop, allowing him to quietly and peacefully observe the immense, wide-open landscape as it softly undergoes a profound transformation with the arrival of dusk. Every single surrounding object seems to be intentionally slowing down, quietly pulling its energy inward to prepare to welcome a long, deeply undisturbed, and peaceful night. This vast, highly expansive space not only effectively softens and melts away all accumulated daily stress and exhaustion, but it also gently reminds us of the humbling infinity of the earth and the sky, compared to our own fleeting, delicate existence. Just let your heart remain as wide open and welcoming as the breathtaking scenery spread out directly in front of your eyes right now, allowing yourself to deeply forgive, deeply understand, and unconditionally love every single precious moment of being alive today. This is the ultimate freedom. Bringing his unhurried steps to a complete halt, he gently closes his tired eyes to fully awaken and sharpen all of his remaining physical senses. The surrounding atmosphere immediately yields completely to a breathtaking, incredibly majestic natural symphony of wild sounds. The gentle rustling of leaves sounds just like a series of soft, resonant musical notes, seamlessly blending with the steady, continuous buzzing of insects beginning to sing as late evening slowly draws near. When your mind is no longer constantly distracted or fragmented by chaotic visual stimuli, your hearing naturally sharpens to fully capture the purest sounds. Have you ever consciously chosen to close your eyes tightly just to listen to the silent breathing of the complex world surrounding you? The wonderful, raw sounds of wild nature are never loud, aggressive, or rushed in any way. Instead, they flow onward with a steady, soothing rhythm like a refreshing, crystal-clear stream that completely washes away every trace of sorrow. A wonderfully cool, refreshing breeze gently sweeps across his skin, carrying the faint, comforting scent of evening dew mixed with the earthy fragrance of grass, creating an unmatched sensation of pure bliss. This profound stillness is never empty or lonely. Rather, it is completely brimming with vibrant life and a sacred connection to the earth. Standing right in the middle of this harmonious, peaceful melody, human beings naturally feel their restless hearts soften, willingly surrendering to the gentle, protective embrace of the universe. Gently opening his eyes, a remarkably soft, genuine smile blooms across his calm lips, completely overflowing with deep gratitude for the present moment. The steady beating rhythm of his heart has completely synchronized with the gentle breathing cycle of nature itself. There is no longer any frantic rushing, no lingering worries, only a deeply tranquil and boundlessly free soul. Walking slowly back home, every single footprint he leaves behind on the soft grass feels wonderfully light and unburdened. Perhaps, Mother Nature is truly a magnificent silent teacher, quietly guiding us back to the most peaceful and authentic version of ourselves. Stepping back inside the cozy house just as total darkness slowly lowers its heavy curtain, he calmly begins the familiar evening tasks designed to neatly close out the day. Faint, rhythmic clinking sounds echo softly as he tidies up the small kitchen, perfectly mingling with the distant, steady chirping of crickets singing outside in the dark garden. The cool evening air carries a crisp mountain chill, affectionately brushing against every nook and cranny of the wooden home. These slow, deliberate, and consistent movements do not feel like an annoying chore at all. Rather, they resemble a meditative ritual clearing the path for the peaceful hours ahead. Do you agree that cleaning up at the end of the day washes away exhaustion? A brilliantly warm, comforting yellow lamp is carefully lit, effectively chasing away the chilly darkness of the night and dressing the entire living space in an overwhelmingly peaceful atmosphere. The gentle, soothing light dances softly across the raw, unpolished wooden surfaces, casting long, deeply tranquil shadows on the floor. The distinct, earthy scent of dry firewood and the faint, calming fragrance of herbal oils disperse gracefully into the air, wrapping securely around each breath and soothing the mind. Within this deeply quiet and incredibly cozy sanctuary, all physical and emotional distance from the noisy outside world is completely severed. Have you treated yourself to a night of absolute peace lately? His cozy sleeping area is meticulously and neatly arranged, looking remarkably crisp, tidy, and inviting. His gentle hand smooths over the soft fabric of the blanket, as if preparing a warm, secure embrace designed to cradle his upcoming dreams tonight. There is no need for flashy luxury or expensive commodities. All it takes is a humble, peaceful corner and a heart completely stripped of heavy burdens to guarantee a truly restful night. Closing the chapter of the day with deep gratitude, he leaves all his lingering anxieties safely behind the closed front door, willingly sliding into the absolute stillness of the night. Within the dim, incredibly quiet, and softly shadowed room, he quietly begins preparing a wonderfully light and unpretentious evening meal. There is nothing complicated or overly elaborate here, just a few simple, wholesome dishes being gently warmed over a low, flickering flame. The soft, sizzling sounds and the thin, wispy trails of rising steam blend harmoniously with the warm, golden glow of the lamp, creating an intensely familiar and deeply comforting feeling. A modest final meal of the day is sometimes all it takes to warm the stomach against the night chill and calm the mind for deep sleep. Do you prefer light meals at night? He carefully sets the small meal out onto the familiar wooden table, slowly and mindfully enjoying every single bite in absolute silence. There is no rushed chaos, only the gentle, quiet sound of wooden chopsticks lightly touching the ceramic bowl. Every single deliberate, slow chew seems to allow all the pure, natural, and wholesome flavors of the earth to deeply settle and linger. At this exact, complete moment, eating is not merely a biological necessity for fueling the physical body. Rather, it is transformed into a precious, meditative pause, allowing the mind to gently reflect upon the fading echoes of a day nearly gone. Bringing the rustic, unpretentious dinner to a peaceful close, he gently gathers everything up, effortlessly restoring absolute neatness and cleanliness to the tiny kitchen space. Every single action unfolds smoothly, gracefully, and naturally, exactly like an organic part of the slow-living rhythm. Once the physical environment has successfully achieved a state of pristine order and refreshing cleanliness, the human soul naturally follows suit, becoming vastly more tranquil and completely prepared to let go of any lingering worries before stepping into a long, deeply relaxing night. Sometimes, these tiny, incredibly simple, and ordinary habits are genuinely the most profoundly effective healing medicines for an exhausted day. Wouldn't you agree? When the room has successfully settled into absolute neatness once again, he deliberately retreats to his deeply familiar desk corner, where the warm, inviting lamp pours out a soft pool of light bright enough to gently illuminate the wandering thoughts flowing into his head. The rustic, unadorned notebook is smoothly opened up, and the rhythmic, steady sound of the pen sliding across the blank paper echoes softly, consistently, and soothingly, like a quiet late-night confession to oneself. These handwritten words do not require any overly neat calligraphy or complex flowery phrasing. Instead, they are purely made of the most authentic, genuine emotions and the smallest, most precious things that make us deeply grateful as another day slips away. Do you honestly believe that taking just a few minutes every single day to quietly converse with your own inner self through written words is also a powerful way to anchor lasting peace? The surrounding environment plunges deep into the profound stillness of the night, effortlessly forming a wonderfully protective, flawless outer shell that completely seals out every single distraction coming from the chaotic world outside. His attentive eyes follow every single stroke of ink, willingly letting go of all daily worries and tracking them down the blank white page until they completely vanish. Writing in a personal journal is occasionally not meant to permanently preserve massive, historically significant events. Rather, it is a mindful tool, allowing us to carefully examine internal chaos and organize it neatly before drifting into sleep. Within this deeply private, secluded moment, every single empty space inside the human heart is completely filled with profound understanding and immense self-compassion. Gently closing the modest notebook securely shut signals the precise moment when all lingering hesitations and unresolved worries of the passing old day are officially stored away safely. A long, wonderfully relieving sigh escapes his lips, accompanied by a slow, satisfying physical stretch, designed to completely release every tight muscle that had been holding onto tension. His calm eyes radiate a deep, unmistakable serenity and quiet stillness, closely resembling the surface of an undisturbed autumn lake without a single ripple. Just let all those imperfect, unfinished things comfortably stay right where they are behind you, because tomorrow the sun will rise once more, bringing fresh opportunities to continue loving and healing. Before officially and deeply sinking into the embrace of sleep, he intentionally carves out one final, exceptionally quiet moment in the day, dedicated entirely to meditation. Sitting completely upright and motionless in the middle of the empty, tranquil room, he gently closes his eyes, effectively severing all active connections with the external world to turn entirely inward. His slow, steady, and remarkably rhythmic breathing echoes like the soothing sound of distant ocean waves washing away lingering mental clutter. There is no heavy past left to regret, nor is there an uncertain future to anxiously worry about. There is only the pristine, perfectly transparent present moment. Have you ever tried setting aside 5 quiet minutes daily? The heavy silence hanging in the air right now feels precisely like an exceptionally soft, cozy blanket warmly wrapping around and tenderly comforting the profound exhaustion of a long day. Every single tense muscle throughout his physical body instantly feels completely unchained, thoroughly letting go and melting away in harmony with each deliberate inhalation and exhalation. The warm, golden glow of the lamp casts a deeply serene, unimaginably peaceful expression right across his relaxed face. True meditation is never about running away from harsh reality. Instead, it represents the wisest, most grounded method to face it head-on with an unshakable mindset. Once your inner mind has been thoroughly cleaned out, your heart naturally feels light and completely ready for tomorrow. Bringing this remarkably short, highly focused meditation session to a gentle close, he slowly and deliberately opens his eyes, welcoming back the familiar visual shapes of his cozy room. A deep, long breath is finally released into the open air, carrying away the very last traces of stubborn, lingering anxiety. A soft, welcoming smile naturally blooms across his lips, like a sincere expression of quiet gratitude directed at his own resilient spirit for patiently carrying another day to completion. Everything around him has truly achieved a state of profound settling, smoothly paving a clear path toward a deeply restful, dreamless slumber. May all troubled souls out there find a safe, peaceful harbor tonight. A wonderfully deep, restorative sleep has completely washed away all lingering fatigue accumulated from yesterday. He gently pushes open the wooden window pane, eagerly welcoming the pristine, crystal-clear life force of the early morning breeze as it pours directly into the small room. The very first rays of morning sunlight, though fragile and delicate, shine brilliantly, piercing right through the hazy, swirling morning mist and playfully dancing across the rustic wooden floorboards. The joyful, melodious chirping of small birds leaping between tree branches echoes like a cheerful morning greeting song that thoroughly awakens every single physical sense. Welcoming a brand new day does not require frantic rushing. Rather, it begins with a vibrant stretch, a deeply restful, dreamless slumber. May all troubled souls out there find a safe, peaceful harbor tonight. Kicking off the brand new morning with wonderfully simple, deeply grounding habits, he leisurely tidies up his sleeping mat, carefully smoothing out every single stubborn wrinkle stretching across the surface of the thin, soft blanket. The soft, faint, and soothing rustling sounds of fabric echo quietly inside the peaceful room, establishing an extraordinary sense of immaculate orderliness and gentle relaxation. Every single unhurried, decisive movement completely lacks the forced reluctance of someone grudgingly performing an unwanted obligation. Instead, it heavily radiates a profound sense of delicate care and loving devotion, dedicated entirely to his own living environment. Tidy sleeping spaces create mental clarity. Stepping completely away from the indoor living space, he leisurely walks out onto the open front porch, standing in absolute stillness right in the middle of the vast, boundless earth and sky. Taking an exceptionally deep breath that fully expands his chest, he intensely feels the remarkably clean, cool, and revitalizing air of the early morning dew weaving its way deep into every single cell. The distinctly earthy, slightly pungent scent of wild grass and damp soil acts like a magical elixir washing away remaining sorrows. Standing right there to let the gentle morning sun warm his skin, he realizes happiness is simply being present in the breath of life. Returning straight back to his regular daily rhythm, he very slowly and unhurriedly begins his personal hygiene routine with absolute mindfulness. There is no frantic rushing to squeeze toothpaste or hurriedly splashing water over his face just to finish quickly. Every single deliberate action is executed smoothly and tenderly. The soft, trickling sound of running water echoing inside the quiet room acts like a pure, cleansing spiritual soundtrack, washing away the very last fragments of lingering morning sleepiness. Cool, refreshing water touching his skin brings an extreme wave of vitality, fully waking up his entire physical body in the most comforting way possible. Mindful routines transform ordinary tasks. A deep sense of cleanliness and absolute freshness radiates throughout the entire body right after those quiet moments of personal care and grooming. Personal items and daily belongings are meticulously arranged and placed back into their precise designated spots, clearly reflecting a harmonious lifestyle built on order and gentle self-discipline. In that intimate space, which is faintly scented with the rustic aroma of traditional soap, every single lingering disturbance in the mind seems to be swept away cleanly and effortlessly. A neat, well-kept, and organized appearance is never just about superficial self-respect, but rather a profound way to warmly welcome all the wonderful things waiting ahead with the most confident, serene, and open mindset possible. Don't you genuinely believe that maintaining physical tidiness directly helps clear the chaotic mind and sets a peaceful tone for whatever lies ahead in your day? Featuring a brightly refreshed face and a spirit that has completely revitalized, he softly stretches his arms, smoothly concluding the entire morning routine without any rush. Free from any sudden pressure or stressful hushing, the morning hours drift by in a genuinely peaceful and fulfilled manner, laying a rock-solid foundation for an exceptionally productive workday ahead. Such thoughtful and careful preparation down to the most minor overlooked details represents how we continuously empower our inner selves from within. Now, let's pause for a quick moment to take a deep breath together and smile brightly to warmly embrace this wonderful new day. Are you feeling completely ready to conquer your daily tasks with this steady, calm, and positive energy today? Let's make it an extraordinarily productive and beautiful experience together, leaving all worries behind us. Stepping fully into the core working hours, there are absolutely no annoying message alert sounds flashing dizzily or urgent phone calls pushing for attention. Only an absolute profound silence blankets this familiar corner. He calmly sits down, smoothly initiating his designated tasks with an intense level of deep focus, yet completely devoid of physical or mental tension. The subtle scratching sound of a pen gliding across paper, or the rhythmic, soft clicking echoes of the keyboard, resonate steadily and harmoniously, just like the calm breathing of someone deeply immersed in a creative flow. When we are finally free from surrounding distractions and external noise, our deep concentration shines brilliantly. Do you find that working in such a quiet, undisturbed space makes everything flow much smoother? Warm, natural light pours through the clear glass window, softly wrapping around his focused posture and illuminating every tiny detail he meticulously handles. His eyes carry no heavy burdens, shining brightly with pure passion for whatever craft he is currently dedicating his time to. Here, work is no longer treated as a heavy burden that must be completed out of obligation, but rather transforms into a creative journey full of inspiration, where every single idea is carefully nurtured and takes shape organically. Working with such effortless ease and deep appreciation for the present moment, isn't that the highest level of personal freedom? Isn't it wonderful when work becomes a source of genuine joy and artistic expression? Pausing between wandering thoughts, he takes a slow sip of warm water, letting his eyes wander toward the vibrant green nature outside to completely recharge. There is no rushed urgency of time, only a quiet, grounded satisfaction in watching his work gradually complete itself according to its own natural rhythm. Happiness is often remarkably simple. Sometimes it simply means being fully devoted to doing something you love in utter, uninterrupted silence. I truly hope that you also manage to find a similar deep joy in your own daily work, just as he does in this tranquil, serene environment. Let yourself slow down and appreciate these small breaks. Moving away from his desk, he returns to the heart of the home, the small, cozy kitchen. Without any trace of haste, his hands meticulously wipe clean every surface with a soft, damp cloth. Stubborn stains fade away after gentle wipes, returning a clean, tidy surface. The soft clicking of neatly stacked dishes resonates in the quiet space, blending with the pure scent of lemongrass just released. Cleaning is not just about physical tidiness. He seems to be patiently washing away the lingering burdens in his heart. Do you find that an organized kitchen brings a strange sense of comfort? The kitchen, after being carefully tended to, now radiates an absolute look of serenity and order. Every single pot and every rustic wooden bowl lies neatly in its proper place, under the light sunbeams gliding through the small window. Keeping the place where the family's hearth resides fresh is not just a routine habit, but a meaningful way to express deep appreciation for the meals that nourish both body and spirit. In this stillness, scented with the smell of new tiles, it seems exceptionally easy to find pure joy in the smallest, most trivial details of daily life, doesn't it? Standing silently to admire the clean results after a period of meticulous effort, a satisfied smile flashes across his face. The cooking space has now transformed into a pristine, inspiring sanctuary. The air is fresh, with not a single speck of dust or clutter hindering the view. There, one doesn't just cook delicious food, but also prepares deep peace for the soul. Perhaps true happiness always hides under the cover of the most seemingly mundane tasks, provided we know how to enjoy them. Doesn't the effort you put into your home space return to you as peace? Stepping outside of the fragrant kitchen, he puts on simple work clothes, ready for some invigorating outdoor physical activity. The hands that were once used for gentle wiping now firmly grasp garden tools, starting to till the rustic soil or gather scattered dry branches. The sound of metal touching gravel resonates, not harshly but rhythmically like a symphony of labor. In the dry air of the early morning, the beads of sweat on his forehead bring a wonderful sense of purification, awakening every sleeping muscle. How long has it been since you felt this connected to nature? The warm sunlight rises higher, casting a golden hue over the vibrant garden. Each stroke of the hoe, each seedling carefully tended, contains a pure love for Mother Earth. The musty scent of red basalt soil mixes with the intense smell of scorched grass under the sun, creating an unmistakable rural flavor. Manual labor sometimes doesn't exhaust us. Instead, it is a way to liberate the mind from swirling thoughts, returning its inherent clarity. Do you think that sweating a little in a small garden is a way to recharge your mental energy? Pausing after a period of diligent work, he rests his chin on the hoe handle, letting the cool breeze blow away the summer heat. Gazing at the neatly cleared courtyard, or the fresh vegetable rows he just tilled, a silent sense of satisfaction spreads through his veins. The physical fatigue has now given way to a light, relaxed feeling. No need for praise or material rewards. The most wonderful result of labor is sometimes just a heart beating rhythmically, and a soul filled with gratitude for the simple, grounded life we lead today. Leaving the familiar corners behind, he walks toward a wide-open, expansive space. Before him now are no longer narrow walls or high-rise buildings blocking the view, but a horizon stretching infinitely under the deep blue sky. The howling wind blows through, bringing the vast freedom of nature, blowing a cool breath of life into his face. Standing amidst vast nature, humans suddenly feel small, yet simultaneously feel a deep and intense connection with everything around. Have you ever treated yourself to a moment of standing in such a vast space? The scenery unfolds like a beautiful painting that no artist could capture fully in all its vividness. Fluffy white clouds drift lazily, casting shadows on the lush green grass gently undulating in the wind. The sound of this vast space is not noisy. Rather, it is a melodious range of wind whistling through the ears, the chirping of insects, and the rustling of leaves blending together. In that great stillness, all the worries and burdens of daily life seem to be blown away by the wind, returning absolute serenity to the soul. Isn't it comforting to be small? He closes his eyes, taking a deep breath that fills his chest, letting the clean air of the earth fill every corner of his body. The gentle stretch now is not just to release muscles, but also an embrace of Mother Nature's protection. When we bravely step out of our narrow comfort zones and immerse ourselves in a wide open space, we realize that the world out there has so many beautiful things waiting. Just let your mind drift freely like those clouds. Isn't it time you explored more of the beauty that the vast world offers to you? After hours of experiencing the vast space, he finds a quiet shade to let his body rest. Sitting on the soft grass or leaning back on the familiar wooden chair, every muscle seems to relax completely with each slow breath. The cool breeze passes by, carrying the breath of all living things, like an invisible hand gently soothing any remaining fatigue. Do you find that resting is not just stopping work, but also the time we allow ourselves to be healed by the simplest things in nature? Doesn't nature have a unique way of mending our weary spirits? Just let your mind drift freely like those clouds. Isn't it time you explored more of the beauty that the vast world offers to you? The surrounding space is so peaceful that you can clearly hear each leaf rustling against another, blending with the sound of birds singing in a corner of the sky. His eyes are half closed, letting his mind wander freely following the lazy clouds on the wide sky. In that absolute silence, all the hustle and bustle of city life seem to be just a distant, faded memory. These moments of rest are so precious. They act as a silent charging station, helping us regain balance after the ups and downs of life. Can you feel the calm settling in now? When his energy is fully recharged, he slowly opens his eyes, welcoming the gentle light of the late afternoon. A sweeping stretch awakens his entire body, bringing a feeling of immense freshness and exhilaration. A calm smile is always on his lips, as an affirmation of the completeness of the present moment. Well rested, now is the time to continue our journey with a heart filled with love and gratitude. May you always find such peaceful intervals for yourself amidst the hurried pace of this life. Isn't it important to prioritize these moments of stillness? Entering the small kitchen flooded with afternoon light, he rolls up his sleeves to prepare a rustic meal. The fresh ingredients, perhaps just picked from the garden in front of the house, still hold a few cool, refreshing dewdrops. His skillful, slow hands pick each vegetable, slice each fruit with absolute respect for nature's gifts. The sound of knives on boards resonates rhythmically, blending with the raw, fresh scent of vegetables, creating a peaceful symphony of life. Cooking is sometimes not just to fill the stomach, but to nourish the mind, isn't it? The kitchen fire starts to burn dimly, warming the quiet space with pleasant sizzling sounds. Thin wisps of smoke curl up, bringing rustic, rich flavors spreading to every corner of the room. Without complex recipes or fancy spices, just by simple seasoning from a calm heart, the dish gradually takes shape, carrying the full essence of the earth. Standing amidst that peaceful twilight smoke, it seems all the haste of the outside life cannot touch this small, peaceful kitchen. Have you ever felt your heart soothed just by the scent of freshly cooked rice? The meal is finished, displayed neatly on a small wooden tray that is full of warmth. The harmonious colors of nature are fully present in every simple dish. Looking at the simple but love-filled result for himself, a smile blooms on his lips. True happiness sometimes doesn't need to be sought far away. It lies right in how we cherish and treasure every smallest moment of daily life. Now let's set aside all worries and treat yourself to a delicious meal. Doesn't taking the time to truly savor your food change your entire outlook on the day? Each spoonful of rustic food is lifted to his mouth. He chews slowly, closing his eyes to capture every sweet flavor of the earth into his senses. There is no flashing phone screen, no noisy television. The meal takes place in absolute silence, with only the soft sound of dishes clinking. In this complete moment, the food does not just nourish the body but also comforts the soul. Do you agree that when we eat in mindfulness, even a bowl of white rice sprinkled with sesame becomes a heavenly delicacy? Isn't it wonderful how simple food can be? The kitchen returns to its inherent stillness. He chooses a small corner on the porch, pressing his hands against a rustic teacup steaming with rising smoke. Warmth spreads through his skin, chasing away the slight chill of the setting sun. Gazing at the scenery slowly sinking into the brilliant sunset, a feeling of completeness and fulfillment rises within him. Satisfaction is sometimes just as simple as this: a day passing peacefully without any waves. My friend, always cherish these moments of stillness, to see that life still has many things worth treasuring, doesn't it? The sunset begins to paint a corner of the sky red, spreading the last sparkling rays of light onto every tree and leaf. He still sits there, silently looking into the distance, where the boundary between day and night is gradually blurring. The space now carries a heart-wrenching stillness, with only the sound of the afternoon wind and the gentle breath of all things preparing to fall asleep. Sometimes we don't need to do much to feel at peace. Just sit quietly and admire a sunset fully. Do you often give yourself such a moment to watch the sunset? The transformation of the earth takes place very gently, like a soft silk ribbon slowly stretching across the space. Darkness gradually covers the scene, soothing the brightness and bustle of the day. His face exudes a strange serenity, without a ripple of worry or sorrow. It seems that when we learn how to let go of expectations and accept everything as it is, the soul will automatically become still and open to welcome the most beautiful things from life. Isn't acceptance a key to unlocking that deep sense of inner peace we all search for? When the last rays of light go out, yielding to the peaceful night, he gently stretches and stands up, carrying that stillness into the warm house, concluding a day without any major events, just full of simple moments repeated with respect. Living minimally, after all, is not about depriving oneself of joy, but a journey to rediscover true freedom and happiness from the smallest things. Thank you for joining us through these healing cinematic shots. Doesn't it feel refreshing to focus on the simple, intentional moments that define our daily existence? When darkness has completely covered everything, he gently lights a small lamp in the corner of the room. The warm yellow light, although not enough to dispel all the darkness, just perfectly illuminates a quiet, rustic corner of space. The sound of the wick crackling quietly, blending with the sound of insects from the garden, creates a gentle background music that soothes all senses. In that dimly lit space, it seems one no longer wants to do anything big or noisy, just want to curl up, relax every muscle, and enjoy the night's protection. Is light your comfort? Under the soft light cast from the lamp, every object in the room seems to be dozing off into a long sleep. There are no more chaotic worries of the day, no more urgent schedules, only the endless ease of a cleansed mind. He sits silently, his gaze far away, not focusing on any fixed point, letting thoughts drift freely like thin clouds. Late night always holds an invisible, magical healing power. It silently embraces souls that need rest after so many stumbles out there. Happiness is simple. Sometimes it's just the moment you sit still and feel peace. As time ticks toward late night, signaling a day about to pass completely, he slowly tidies up the small items around him, clearing the way for a deep sleep. The rustling sound when putting things away is very gentle, as if afraid to disturb the sacred stillness of the vast night. A gentle, slow stretch to shake off the last bit of fatigue still clinging to his shoulders. Then he slowly relaxes his entire body. No matter how deep and vast the night outside the window is, this familiar corner is always full of warmth, stability, and peace. Rest well, dear friend. The minimalist lifestyle journey, after all, is not a dry destination to measure how many items we have, but a continuous process of purifying the mind. When we learn to let go of excessive material comforts, the space created will automatically be filled with understanding and priceless freedom. Slowing down a bit in a world moving at lightning speed gives us the opportunity to hear our own heartbeats clearly. Do you agree that sometimes less is the moment we receive more, in terms of spirit? Is it time for you to start simplifying your own life today? The simple moments we have just experienced together, from the sound of flowing water to the brilliant morning sun or the quiet yellow lamp, are all pieces of a complete life. They are always there, waiting for us to slow down to cherish and treasure. True freedom does not lie in how far we can go, but in how firmly we can abide in the present moment. Just live gently, accept everything with tolerance, and happiness will find its way to your door. Isn't it time to embrace this life with all its simple, beautiful, and authentic gifts? Concluding these rustic films, I hope that a little peace has managed to creep into your soul, soothing away lingering sorrows. Remember that although the world out there may have more, the most stable sanctuary always lies deep within you. Keep moving forward on your journey to find your own freedom. Thank you for staying here, breathing, and feeling the gentle heartbeat of life. See you in the next moments of stillness. May you carry this sense of tranquility with you into everything you do tomorrow and beyond. Take care of your precious inner world. The journey of minimalism is not about forcing ourselves to throw everything away, but a process of refinement to realize what truly makes our hearts vibrate. In the infinite stillness of space, when each breath becomes one with nature's heartbeat, all external glamorous shells seem to fall away gently. There, only a soul remains, truthful and freer than ever before. Do you think that the absence of unnecessary things is when we most completely feel our own presence? Isn't it incredible how stripping away the noise reveals the true essence of who we really are? Every day passing in peace, even without brilliant glory, is built by countless small pieces of simple joy. The musty scent of young grass, the warmth from a rustic cup of tea, or simply a ray of afternoon sun sparkling on the wooden floor. Everything blends together, weaving a complete life, not by material, but by the richness of an interior that knows its stopping point. Happiness, sometimes, is an art of refusing temptations to protect the small, peaceful corner in your heart. Have you found that special, quiet corner within your own heart today? When the day's sounds gradually sink into silence, it is also the time to send a gentle goodbye to everything. A deep, dreamless sleep will be the best gift to close today's journey. Just let the unfinished things stay behind, because tomorrow's sunrise will bring new opportunities for us to continue loving and being healed. Thank you to the souls who have stayed here to find stillness amidst a world full of noise. I wish you a peaceful night and very beautiful dreams. See you again. May your sleep be restful and full of deep, restorative peace tonight.